Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here at the EET conference. Just a housekeeping, I don't have the remote control to change the presentation. The changer, how do I advance the slides? Okay. We're in an area of, thank you very much. We're in a time of technological change, and that's a very interesting time and a time of great opportunity, but it's also a time of great complexity when we have to look at how things were in the past, how we would like things in the future, and how we resolve how we go from where we are to where we would like to be. So I'd like to talk about digital television and the era of disruptive technology, how these forces might play out, and particularly to look at the spectrum needs, because spectrum is the vital input that these new technologies such as digital TV and mobile broadband will need to offer the benefits of mobile broadband in terms of competitive jobs and access to lots of different diverse content which will help with cultural diversity. So just a quick outline. Mobile and broadband are changing people's viewing habits. This market change requires mobile operators to best consider how to serve that. It also poses regulatory challenges. I think one of the key issues is access to spectrum for these new services. 798.62 is a band which is being harmonised across Europe. It was very interesting and pleasing to hear that the EETT is commissioning a study which will look at the possibility of replanning the television bands from 478.62 to perhaps make those bands available. That's one of the key issues I think that needs to be considered. The mobile industry is positioning itself to be able to take advantage of convergence and the way people are watching television in a different way. So there are mobile TV technologies which operators are investing in worldwide. There are also new technologies to make 3G mobile broadband networks work more efficiently and more effectively so that they can offer these new services and content to consumers. So what are the forces involved that will make an impact? Well, obviously we have the internet, which with IPTV. We have traditional television with terrestrial cable and satellite. We have mobile technology. And added to that mix of complexity, which will be different in each country and each market, is spectrum, which makes things possible. Okay, so it varies from market to market. So there's no one-size-fits-all in terms of mobile TV. There are different technologies which operators can choose. One of the things I wanted to look at in particular was the internet and how that's impacting on people's viewing habits. There was a piece of work done by a chap called Chris Anderson, so I can't claim the credit for this, in his book The Long Tail, which he published a couple of years ago, which I'd like to look at. And it looks at what happens to services where people consume those services and the ability to offer new content or different content or extra content isn't really impacted by the number of people that use it. So, for example, TV is where you make the content. It doesn't really matter whether 1 million people watch it or 10 million people watch it. The costs are pretty much the same. It doesn't apply to all markets, for example, cars and things, but it does apply to things like the internet, books, and television content. One of the things that's quite interesting is how has the internet affected the way people buy books. So this is a slide which looks at what percentage of books people buy from various categories. So, for example, we see 43% of books were from a category where there were 5,000 to 50,000 books sold. That's a very sort of niche product. That was sort of quite surprising to me when I saw that figure. I'd have expected to be much more the blockbusters where people buy 1 million or people buy 100,000 books. That would be much more the biggest chunk of the market. In fact, what we've seen is that the internet, Amazon is able to stock thousands and thousands and thousands of books are able to order, which your local bookstore wouldn't have done. So in fact, if you look at what the bookstore would have held traditionally, it would have been that sort of 23%. of those sorts of books. That other 77% wouldn't have been available without the internet. So that's a real impact of how the internet has changed the habits of consumers and what they consume. Another way of representing that is looking at this popularity versus products. So this is for top TV channels. So you can see at the head, that would be perhaps the top 4, 5, 6 channels which are broadcast on terrestrial TV perhaps. That's where the majority of viewers would be. But things are changing. With IPTV, that's shifting. And what we're finding is that there's a lot of people now interested in niche content. This is being eroded over time, so we're seeing that the way people consume TV is changing. They're not sort of waiting for their program to become available on the viewing schedule. They're going to look for it. And also people are wanting to watch different things. So when terrestrial TV was the only way of delivering television content, people had to watch those 3 or 4 or 5 channels. They didn't have any choice. So those channels had all the viewing content. Now that there's the ability to watch television via other media, we're seeing this long tail impact. So the key message is the long tail is actually now generating a lot of revenue. Even though those individual viewers are only watching, there may not be very many people watching particular content, the fact that there are so many of them is generating a real business opportunity. This is just a quick slide to show what's the impact on the broadcasting market. Well, you can see here this is advertising revenues, and what you would expect to see is a shift away from terrestrial TV towards the internet, and that's exactly what you see with that purple line on Google. So what impact does mobile technology have on the strategy that an operator adopts? It's quite interesting because it depends on your view of whether you want to focus on the head or the tail, and how that changes over time. So there are 2 main technologies. DVB-H is one technology which is quite prevalent in Europe, but there are others, Flow in the US and DMB in other markets. It doesn't use 3G technology. It needs its own separate overlay network. It also means that you need a handset which uses a different technology. So those are sort of negative aspects of it. It's extra cost, and you have to rely on handsets being multi-mode. But on the other hand, it's very good at addressing content to people that watch the same thing across a network. So it's very efficient at doing that. So if you believe the business case is at the head end, then DVB-H is a very good technology to choose. The other technology relies on 3G and MBMS or unicast, but basically you can think of it as a broadband pipe that you watch IPTV. This gives the carrier, the mobile carrier, the opportunity to deliver any content to any subscriber at any time. So it's very good at focusing on that tail end. The other advantage it has is obviously it's less of a risk in outlay. You can implement this in your network without building a new overlay network and without needing dual mode terminals. But it can lead to capacity problems because this takes away resources. So which one depends on an operator view about the strategy they want to adopt in their local market, and we've seen operators adopt different technologies. The same operators adopt different technologies